Hi everybody, just a quick video here. I was just thinking yesterday about this colossal planet that we call Earth and the fact that it's spinning around, there you go, once a day, and it spins around the sun 365 days a year. And it does it, like all the other planets, in silence. This huge grey object, proportionally tiny of course to the universe, just spinning around in space in silence. Just think about that for a second. This huge thing on this Earth. Of course we hear noise, music, the energy all around us, sound everywhere, all the time, because the atmosphere, obviously sound travels through the atmosphere, through the air. But beyond it, it's quiet. And these incredibly huge objects are, there's the phrase, the music of the spheres, and we interpret space, and we interpret the movement of the planets, and we interpret things as best we can through sound and music. Now this is a very interesting CD. This is music from the galaxies. This is what we're listening to. It's Dr. Fiorella Terenzi, astrophysicist, and this is radiation from space. And it's being processed so we can hear it, so we get the frequency and intensity of the waves, and we can hear it as this is for sound travelling through space. I mean, amazing. A really excellent CD this. And it just got me thinking, of course, there are so many examples of electronic music and synthesizer music and space. Hawkwind, obviously a rock band, but without the electronics, would we have had all of those cosmic titles? Where did it start? Yeah, we can think about films like The Forbidden Planet, where the electronics were, and the synthesizer music was integral to the actual film. And there was a sense in the 30s and 40s and 50s, of course, a sense of these instruments sounded futuristic. They sounded otherworldly. They sounded cosmic. They sounded different and like nothing else before. And it didn't all have to be related to space. And the theremin, of course, this is classical music interpreted on the theremin by the violinist Clara Rockmore. But so much of it is, I mean, can we listen to music related to space which is not electronic? It's so part of everything now. When you listen to, or pick up any album really, electronic album, there's elements of space in the titles. It conjures up sort of space imagery perhaps. Here, obviously this is a prison. There's the sort of imagery, space art, and some of the titles, Cassiopeia's birth, Axis, lasers in November, etc. It's all futuristic, it's all science fiction. These planets have no noise, and we've given them a very futuristic noise. It was all about the race to space. It was all about the potential of the future, and that's what it was, and we interpreted it that way, and we still do. And the movies, of course, here's a classic example, Solaris. This is played on an ANS, Russian-built synthesizer. And without the synthesizer, without the electronic music, the movie may have lost all sense of otherworldliness, although we're told it's on another planet. Maybe we needed that music, that electronic music. Here's another one, of course. Zed Visions of Dune. So it's a science fiction film interpreted in electronic music. Sun Ra. And classical composers, of course, like Holst and the Planets, They're not necessarily electronic music, but they have something of they can emulate and maybe make you think of stars and think of space and think of the universe without the need for that. But it's an interesting thing. We seem to rely incredibly in interpreting space with the synthesizer and electronics. Are there any songs about space which are just acoustic? Would it sound right to our ears? It's interesting. Obviously, we've had many songs about the moon. The moon is a very different thing. We have a very different relationship to the moon. It was never about futurism, well, futuristic advancement apart from man landing on the moon and walking on it. But it's always been there. The relation to the moon is very different. We have a sense of being out in space and otherworldliness and outer space. Without the synthesizer, without electronics, where would music be? How would we interpret it? This is an incredibly good listen, and it's not blippy bloppy, a little bit wispy. It's just a very captivating sound. Anyway, there's not really much else to say, just to get you thinking about that. I'm sure there are many records and many albums. There are obviously hundreds of hours. I mean, there are many others I could have shown which are electronic, which have space in the title, etc. But that idea that space is silent and this amazing thing, we sometimes talk about the ballet of the planets or the music of the spheres, and we interpret it the best way we know how, but it's really silent. Or is it? Anyway, that was a whole lot of stuff about nothing. I'll see you all later.